We're going to argue that our whole lives.
I hope so.
Just kind of that.
Hello, good morning. Welcome in to another episode of Good Morning Nasdaq right here on the Clover Trading YouTube channel. It is 8:57 in the morning, 9/6 year of our Lord 2024. Wrapping up the first week in September. Been going strong this entire year on Good Morning Nasdaq. Every time I say like the start of a month, end of the month, I feel like we're really pushing through. Let us know in the chat right now. Have you been with us since New Year's of 2024? Have you been here this entire year watching the journey, watching the growth, making sure that you're hitting the like button, all that good stuff? Let us know. Let us know where you're tuning in from. We already have William in here, 123 drummer Max, Joseph, Ty, Wayne, Thomas. Good morning. Good morning. You have me, Dom. That is Huddie, who is tired because he was probably up too late watching NFL footballs. I'm tired for different reasons, but we're here, starting a little bit late, but we are ready to go and back at it. Let me know real quick, Huddy. Thoughts on the opening week of September. It's kind of a weird week in terms of, I would think most people would classify it as slow, but all three Clovers are pretty green. I have been green every day. I don't know if you've been green every day, but you're having a great week.
I'm top of the leaderboard.
Top of the
Baby. I'm in front of
leaderboard.
Kyle.
How do you categorize this week? Do you even care? I think so many people want to categorize it, and so it's hot, it's not, and that should correlate to my performance. But I think we both just talked about it, and the reason we're always late in the mornings is because me and Huddy get on and we start talking to each other, and who knows what the topics. Sometimes we usually start with trading, but it was the kind of overarching thing was I love this week. There's like nothing going on, but when I do take a trade, I'm right, I'm winning, and then I'm sitting back and doing nothing.
Yeah, it's a super hands-off approach type of market. So, there are other markets where, like, I guess, quote unquote hot, where it's like I'm watching 8 tickers and there's a ton of discretionary situations going on that I have to like kind of read the price action, read the chart, and get a good entry. And that doesn't really feel like this week. Like if you had just played textbook trading and, bought the one breakout of the week, BOF, on Monday, you were rewarded. Gappers crapped and they just faded all day. So you were rewarded if you just touched a button and sat in it and had a wide stop. And stocks are continually setting up in a matter where you can actually look forward to future plays because you can see them quite literally on the horizon. So it's a hands-off approach, but when you have to push a button, it feels like the plays are working quite well. Has nothing to do with the overall markets. It's just right now, this week, like it's been easy trading, I think. Whether you're long or short bias, as long as you're not just like randomly buying EAST as it's gapping up 275% like a dodo brain.
A doo-doo
You're
bird?
doing fine. Yeah, I mean, I don't know the strategy there. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I don't have one either. And I
yeah.
think that's usually where people's brains go when either there's less of their pattern, it's not showing up every day, or goes away for a little bit longer, or just the overall market is a little weak, and we just don't have the quantity of plays. It usually is the gappers that people go to buy or to short or to chase or to chase short or to fight. And I think that's always been a mistake. I think there's a very few amount of people. I think the reason we do the show is to prepare you guys for the morning, get you familiar with the gappers, but mostly it's because you guys like the gappers and you guys want to see us talk about them. And in reality, it's from the long perspective, it's almost nowhere near any part of our system. From the short side, it's very new for a lot of us Clovers, even short selling them, like even watching them in the first place. Most of our careers have been built, and Huddy mentioned this earlier. It's just like this has been such a big part of the year, whereas in the last 7 or 8 years of our careers, we didn't even look at the gappers of the day. And you can have a very good career without looking at the gappers of the day.
I mean, and I wouldn't even go as far as that. I mean, I've definitely traded gappers. I mean, I've been predominantly short bias for 8 or 9 years, and there used to be tons of times where I'm coming to pre-market and I'm looking at filings, dilution, and trying to pick out the most dilutive ticker out of the bunch, and like that would be the one that I would attack for a gap and crap type of approach. And that didn't really pay me very well. I mean, it's just so many times I got put myself in such bad situations that I stopped doing it because they can get pretty wild. But, kind of 8 years in, I looked at the field again and I said, what if I changed my approach? What if I changed my criteria? And that's what really put me like on gappers and consistently profitable on them so far this year. Because I changed the approach. I changed how I went about, entering and exiting them. And so that's been really cool to uncover 8 years into my career, like a strategy that I've known that a lot of people can make money off of, but I never, no one ever told me how to do it. And that was like kind of a side project or side quest that I had this year, and it's been great. It's half my year. So
and it's been fun talking with you guys about them as well, learning about these fun catalysts. I love cool names. Having fun doing it. Double A Ron says been green all week. I think it's because I feel like it's clear what is the play versus multiple tickers going. Yeah. And I've always said this, which is why I tell beginners not to get down on themselves when there's sector momentum or there's like 20 tickers out there and the market is hot and every guru and fool out there is telling you, you better be making money because this is your time to do it. I could not disagree more. I think the more you give beginners, especially in the beginning, the more they are going to screw it up. And it is if you can take that approach, Double A Ron, I know you're in the room as well, always providing good commentary. If you take that approach and that perspective and look at the market from those eyes, even when the market shifts and is quite hotter, usually it puts you in a much better situation because it just teaches you how to narrow your focus, right? I don't nail APDN yesterday if it's not one of two stocks I'm watching. And that's what I've really learned over the last 2 months is it's really not necessarily about what you do. Sometimes it's about what you miss. And if you're prepared for something and you miss it over and over again over the course of the month, and there's only 3 or 4 really good setups of that setup over the course of the month, it's going to dramatically affect your results. And it's just, this constant battle of staying within the system. But we're having a good September so far, and we're going to look to keep it going.
It's one of those Fridays where the week has been so good to me that...
And it's only been a 3-day week.
Yeah, it's been so good to me that I my body, my heart, my everything just says, don't trade today and just end on like a really high note. But that's literally trading P&L, and I can't do that because if it really, like what Dom said, if a really good play comes and I'm just not in it because I've made too much money this week, and then it would have made me too much more money, like that's a risk that I don't think I could sleep with. So I will be trading, even though I just want to hang up my hat and just say, hey, it's a good week. Let's just go on to Monday. I think that's all just kind of in my head. And we'll buy or short whatever we need to buy or short.
Do what we gotta do. All right, we have a stock that we talked about not yesterday. No, this one was this one popped up midday. Was parabolicing to the 4, 5, 6 area. Mr. Wheeler.
This is one where the name of the company is also like the ticker, so it's easy.
Very easy. There is not a. It's. I think most would agree. We're looking at Wheeler here. Sometimes there is a little. Why are you calling it Fifi when there's no second F?
Or railroad?
Or railroad, which is RR, obviously. Most people would know that one.
Which is Rich Tech Robotics.
But sometimes we find ourselves in these rare situations where everyone can agree this is what we got. Let's take a look at the filings or anything real quick that you think, because we didn't go over this one yesterday. We'll get comfortable with all this information, the catalyst, all that, and then we'll head to the daily chart, talk about yesterday, and going into this morning up 115%, was much higher in the pre-market. Congrats to any overnight longs, by the way. I know our room was talking about it. Bill was talking about it, and so was Don Juan, who I think made 12K, so W's in the chat for Don Juan, always killing it on the gappers. Wheeler Real Estate Investment Trust.
Specialist.
He is, yes. 920K float out of Virginia Beach. I have an uncle that lives in Virginia Beach. Real Estate Investment Trust. Let's see. Yeah. No news.
So there was like this, from what I read, there was like this court case where they acquired some grocery store staple, and the grocery store was mad at them because they got a bad deal, and they were like suing them or something, and that the results of that case came out. I don't know every single detail, but that
in a positive way for them.
Huh?
Was it positive for them?
I mean, just based on, I didn't read the court case, but just based off the price action, I imagine.
Okay. Anything else in the filings that you see that interest you on a 900K float?
They have dilution. I don't know the ins and outs of this dilution, but they have these redemption shares. I don't know if it's still going on. It was kind of uglier last time I looked at this stock, which was like maybe a year ago, like last October. They had these like redemption stocks that get paid out after the 5th of every month. I don't really know how redemption things work. It's just very interesting that yesterday was the 5th and today's the 6th. I think there is maybe something going on, but maybe it's not really active anymore. I don't have a huge grasp on them. So I'm not going to play it like it's dilutive or anything like that, but I am kind of curious to see how that situation unfolds, like maybe months or years down the line. Who knows? But I don't think this Wheeler company is solid. I think there's weird things going on, but for now it's squeezing and it's a low float, and I'm staying clear of it as a short seller.
Yeah, and I'm also just happy to see it. I wanted this out of Wizza a couple days ago. If gappers are going to go and runners are going to run during the middle of the day, morning, whatever, and you're either going to lose on them from a gap and crap perspective, or you're just not going to play them. And we're in a market like we are right now, where there's not a million stocks to watch. The only way to get to a point in a week from now where we have multiple breakouts I'm watching, multiple first red days, multiple first green days, is if something just takes the top off and something just gets going. And it doesn't mean that Wheeler hasn't already topped, but I want to see movement. I want to see day two gaps. I want to see more run. I want to see more squoze in this.
So what do you think for Wheeler today?
I think the top's in, but
Yeah. I think there's a world where, again, I just don't want to play it personally, just based off the share structure. But I think there's a world where, have we had one of these charts recently where you get like a 1-2 punch?
I feel like we've had a few over the last couple months, and it's been very hit or miss on what the overextended gap up looks like.
I guess like CNFR was the only chart that kind of resembled it from this week, what I think Wheeler could look like today. Like kind of open, maybe some spikage to the highs, and then, fades off and patches some support near the previous day's levels.
What was the one last week? There was one that came all the way back down to previous close. William Gregory probably knows. Let us know.
I forgot.
But we've seen it a lot. I feel like in 2023, it's been it was like you couldn't mess this up, right? If a stock did gap up on day two, 100% or more, like you were getting paid all the way back down to 4 in this case. It's been a lot different. We saw it with Fifi to kind of earlier this year that kind of set a trend of it. There's been others as well. I think Zap has just did it over and over again, but it has not been as easy on day two. For me, I actually personally stopped. I'm not allowed to trade them this month unless I treat them like gap and crappers and have wide risk and don't trade it like it's supposed to be tight risk for max reward. But we are up 130%. So they did run yesterday, squeezed out into the sixes, held up in the afternoon and into after hours and gapped up even higher this morning. So are you or are you not thinking about treating this like a gapper, or are you treating this like a daily chart runner, because it is kind of both?
I would if I were to trade it, I would treat it like a gapper. I think 1 to 9, like I think there's solid odds that this thing sees low sevens today at some point. It's just like, how much is it going to spike first is kind of my question. So most of the time when I'm looking at gappers, I don't want to trade sub 1 mil float. So you guys just have to understand that about me. Like, that's a personal thing. So for me, it's like, if I were to attack, like, there's no world where I really am going to trade this, but if I were, I would treat it like a gapper, because I think it's going to fade. I think it's going to have like a big red, like hanging man type of candle. I could be wrong. And either way, it doesn't matter, because I'm just like, not really a recommendation to do anything. It's just, I don't think it's going to hold its gains, but for me, it's not really a trade.
Yeah. It's a Friday. Also a friendly reminder about that. So 900K float gapping up on day two. It's already kind of provided insane range, 4 to the 14, $15 area. There's a lot of range to the upside, a lot of range to the downside. That's also why, when you're building your strategies and your systems up for yourself, you got to know what makes you comfortable. And the reason I kind of struggle with this is, most of the trades I take are tight risk, max reward. Hard to do that when a stock has $10 a share of range.
Yeah, crazy.
And it's very difficult to know exactly the timing of that.
I think end of day data, like daily value, like what do I expect the daily candle to be? I think the data favors like downside, but again, it could be like very chaotic in the morning before it really, like EAST yesterday was pretty chaotic in the morning before eventually choosing its direction. And I think we're gonna have something similar here. So that's not how I'm gonna slip up this week. I'm not gonna go touch a stock and watch the bid fall out a buck or the ask fall out a buck.
Yeah, I wouldn't be like, if you told me you don't have to trade this today, I'd feel pretty good about that. I wouldn't be upset. And if I was going to trade something like this, which I might, I would sit down, in the 10 minutes that I have before the open, and write a very specific plan of what I'm doing at the open. Am I waiting? Am I giving it 20 minutes? Am I giving it 30 minutes? Am I treating it like a gapper? Am I holding all day? Am I looking for a swing? Like, be very specific with what I want. So that way, if I see specific action, I can either avoid or attack. And it's not just like, oh, I got to figure something out right now because it's moving. Is there any other gappers that you want to hit on? There's a couple 60% ones. We only have like 5 or 6 minutes left. Do you want to take some questions, or do you want to hit on one of those that interest you some more? There's BLMZ up 65%, BAER, BENF all up around 60.
Yeah, I mean, though these don't really interest me. Like BLMZ, it's got like 6 million shares. It's in the dollar area. Like, I don't really want to even talk about that. I don't. It kind of reminds me like a Hoth yesterday, just nothing burger. BENF is a bit better on the volume profile. Some action there, but really not all that big of a gap. And I didn't really see any news about it this morning when I was looking at it. Maybe there needs to be a deeper dive, but no, I mean, let's go to questions. I mean, those are just like I don't think they're whatever. I don't think many people are watching.
Someone asked specifically about BEMF, so if you want to do a 30-second spiel on it, and I'll follow along with you.
Yeah, I mean, a 30-second spiel. I don't know what the news is, but just looking at the chart here, kind of a history of big one-day runs. But the thing that is interesting about these big one-day runs is they are gappers. They start from, pretty much the day's previous close, if not red on the day, and then they go on this crazy run. So really the only time that I see that it's gapped up, like off the lows, is in that April area where it did fail really heavily. So it's a situation where I think there's overhead resistance. There's kind of a history or precedent of gap and craps. And I don't know, maybe I don't know if it's 50-50 for me. Maybe it has like one of those big green candles. Maybe it craps. Either way, it's like not something I'm going to be watching. I don't know why. Why watch this?
Yeah, up 62%. I'm not very interested. That is the one trend I see, is that all of its runs are pretty low volume besides 2 of them. 20 to 40 mil. But they're just, what is this run with? Because I've seen this one has popped up, I feel like, randomly. What sector is this in?
I don't know, but those are some crazy range candles, like 2 to 13.
We've seen them before. But yeah, that never holds up. Obviously, a ton of resistance overhead. If it was up a lot more, potentially be interested in fading it, but 1.67 million float, so quite small. I think the eyes and attention are going to be on Wheeler, but that could also mean that there's maybe some juice, because we do have, BLMZ now up 75%. We got like 3 gappers in that 60 to 80% range, so there maybe is some room for low-hanging fruit if you can find some sort of edge either in the catalyst or just in a market where there's not as many shorts or something like that. Definitely a potential this morning, as most eyes are probably going to be on Wheeler.
Yeah, it's like BENF has a history of like one-day runs and then it fades. So I would expect it to like kind of push, wick off the highs, and then tomorrow will be a red day. But I will not be playing it.
A lot of questions on BOF. If there's so many questions about it, you know what? Then I'll tell you that my watch list has BOF on it. Talked about it all day in the room. If you want access to information on BOF, you can head on over to clovertrade.io, because we're talking about it. I'm going to go talk about it some more right out of the gate as well. I like that one. Jenica asked about Wizza for a first green day. Am I watching it? Just letting you guys know, you can get my watch list over at clovertrade.io. I did have this one on here as well. It technically doesn't fit reversal criteria. Let me zoom in a little more. From around $1.15 to $3.26. I don't think it's 300%, but it's 2 something. But it was a squeezer. It was one that kind of put a lot of headaches into short sellers. I don't know. They had a conference call day one. Someone also said they had a conference call or something yesterday. So there's a lot of behind the scenes going on here, which kind of annoys me, because don't want to be in stocks that at any moment something weird can happen. But if this were to go green on a Friday and hold up and kind of push back into the $3 area, I could see a world where a reversal turns into a breakout. And not one that I want to overstay my welcome on, but on one where if it's doing 50, 60, 70 mil right out of the gate, Or not right out of the gate, obviously, but the first couple
It's not
hours.
going to be doing that.
Yeah, like it feels like it's going to do that throughout the day. Like I don't expect it to overcome this volume before, but it does have a history back here of a decent bounce day after a pullback.
Oh,
So
we still had the big day one and then gap up and failure candle, like last April. That's what I think Wheeler could look like today.
I mean, this April, yeah,
Yeah, like
yeah, something like that, and it went right
something
back
like
down
that.
to the previous close. Yeah, so that is on my watch for a potential reversal. I wouldn't again be devastated if I missed it, and if it just spiked right out of the gate and I missed it, I wouldn't be upset. Probably I would want it to set up a little bit because it is super choppy. Like you look at yesterday's price action, the last few days, it actually doesn't look that bad when you zoom out, but in the moment I was like, this thing's wild. Yes, so watching Wizza as well there. Someone asked a question that I think we can get to and then run on out of here. Skelly Gaming Create says, what was the one main factor that you changed to turn you from a losing break-even trader to consistently winning trader?
What was the main factor that I changed?
Yeah.
I think it comes down to like narrowing your focus to one specific strategy. And I know you hear it all the time, and it's so cliche at this point, but I remember when I was inconsistent, it was because I was trying to trade everything that was being traded in a chat room, and I just wanted to be a part of every single move. And everywhere that someone had made money, I felt like I should have made money there too. And then I realized that's not how it works, and I need to find, like, through my trades and through my data, like, where am I most consistent, where am I making the most amount of money, and where are the losses very controlled. Like, all those things matter. And once I pinpointed which strategy that was, I literally threw out every single other strategy that anyone had told me was good, and I only focused on that one strategy. And in 4 or 5 months I had made 6 figures, and it was like, that was it. Like that, it's that simple, right? Just refine and focus on the thing that makes you money and loses you less, and build that, that account, that strategy, until you feel like, there's a second part to that strategy or second part to the move that you think you've watched enough times and you start to understand, and you can add it in. But that takes multiple years, right? Like I was a predominant first red day short seller all of 2018, all of 2019, and probably half of 2017, right? And then it wasn't until 2020 and 2021 that I allowed myself to buy stocks. But again, like it was something that I was seeing very specifically in the market that it was on crack. So I wanted to buy stocks, right? And that was a huge part of, those 2 years. So it's really just, 2020 and 2021, what was I wasn't really shorting first red days. I was buying breakouts like constantly every day, like multiple. So again, I was focusing on one strategy, and I think that's what people have to do. Like people that made money in 2022, like the guys that made a lot of money were focusing on the China pumps. Like the guys that were there early were making a lot of money until it got kind of bamboozled. So that's my piece. I think focusing on one strategy at a time is key to consistency, because too many strategies, too many trades, like you're going to randomize the results.
Yeah, I will agree with that. And the other point that I would make on that topic of how you get there is how you get to narrowing your focus, how you get to trading one or two patterns is through your own statistics, through tracking, through making sure that as a beginner, I don't think there's a more important time to have all of your data points put together, all of your trades on one piece of paper, one spreadsheet, on Kyle's spreadsheet, on Excel, Google Sheets, whatever it is. You need to be very aware of every decision you make and what that results in at the end of every month, 3 months, 6 months, year, so you know which direction to go in. I wasn't doing this for the first 4 or 5 months, and it showed. I had random results, like Huddie said. I was trading too many patterns. There was trades I was taking that I would think that was one pattern, but in reality there were no pattern. And I was doing too much. And the easiest way to tell yourself which direction to go down is to just follow the data and follow the numbers. So I started treating it like a business. I stuck to basically just multi-day breakouts and first green days. And voila, all of a sudden when I started avoiding all this other noise that other people were trading, I started making money. And it's a lot of what I've been trying to do over the past year. I've had basically a lot of video lessons since December of 2023 till now, of since me sizing down, of going through that journey of kind of starting over again, building my system, sticking to my patterns. Obviously I know my patterns because I've been doing it a long time, but in this case, using the data to help you find your patterns after having traded some time in the market. And just finding consistency in your approach, and eventually your consistency in doing the same thing every day and looking at the market the same way will lead to you profiting in the same way. And the second you take off, you stray away from that consistency, you'll find that you struggle, big losses show up, and drawdowns appear.
You also have to know, like, just take it as slow as possible. There's so much that you probably don't know yet that you still have to learn, that you just want to kind of survive in the beginning and make sure that you have enough time to actually educate yourself. Like this week, one of the biggest faders was WINT. Do you know about that dilution? Have you looked into it? Have you reviewed that chart? Have you reviewed those filings, right? Whether you're short biased or long biased, you want to be able to avoid a landmine if you're long, and if you're short, you might want to be able to be in a profitable situation if you understand the dilution and the fundamentals. So always things to be studying, and just continually kind of working at the craft and understanding what is this framework of small cap. And the other thing I wanted to say is one of the things that put me over as a short seller, when I first started to like say, okay, this is what I want to do, for like, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, I was doing it on E-Trade. So that's not really conducive to being a short seller, because you can't short sell everything under the sun at E-Trade. So one of the main shifts was actually like ponying up and saying, okay, like I need to go to one of these high net worth brokers, and now they're cheaper than they were back then, but I need to be able to trade what I'm setting out to trade. I can't like watch a trade that I could have been a part of happen, but then I didn't have the right broker, so I wasn't able to short it. And then like now all of a sudden I'm watching 5 other stocks that weren't a part of my plan because I have FOMO. So you need to have the necessary tools, right? Like whether it's a scanner or a broker to do whatever you need to do. You need to be prepared.
Be prepared, as the Boy Scouts will tell you. Correct?
Yes, the Boy Scouts.
There's a saying that the Boy Scouts say that I'm blanking on, but it's something about, being prepared. And if you're not prepared, you're prepared to fail, all that stuff. All right, everybody, it's 9:24. I don't even know if I'll be able to get my screens open downstairs in time. But thank you for being here. What an amazing week. A little 4-day week. We'll be back at it live Monday morning, 8:45 a.m. for another episode of Good Morning Nasdaq for a full-on 5-day week. Excited for that. Excited for the weekend. Full weekend of football. I know me and Huddie will argue about which day is the day to sit there all day. I'll tell you, I'll be there all day Saturday. Maybe I'll make a buffalo chicken dip. You never know.
Wow.
But looking forward to it. The fall is the time for fun. We get hunting. We get football. Buffalo chicken dip. Yep. Life is good. And then the market hopefully picks up as well. It's kind of the trifecta, if you will. Looking forward to it. If you have any questions, reach out to us. We're over at clovertrading.io. Reach out to support if you have any interest in joining 3 or 4 Leaf. We'll tell you that we love it there and we have a great time. And we hope to see you there one day. But if not, thank you for being here live on the YouTube channel. Be sure to check out all of our other content. Follow us on our socials. And as always, be the best version of yourself you possibly can be. Have a great weekend, everyone.